Hey guys, welcome back to The Core. I am Arinda, your host, hairstylist, and life coach. And I'm here with my beautiful friend, licensed marriage and family therapist, Miss Kahara
Hey,
Green
y'all.
Eyes.
Ow.
Hey y'all.
So we today are going to be talking about a subject that I need to learn a little lesson about. I feel like this is a learning segment for me. We're talking about forgiveness and offense.
Wow.
I am peppermint petty, so I'm gonna need
Okay.
some support
Yes.
because I don't know how to do it.
Well, girl, I don't know if we the blind leading the blind today, honey, because we both need some help.
I feel like I could learn some stuff from you. I think, when we're talking about forgiveness and offense, the thing that so we should probably talk about a secular definition of forgiveness and then also the spiritual definition, because there's one that I teach to my clients, and I'm sure you can teach me about the spiritual component.
Okay.
But one of the things that I heard from the spiritual perspective is forgiveness takes time. Right. So what I used to think was that you forgive and forget, right? Or you forgive and then you move forward and then you just keep relationshiping with the person and forget about whatever happened.
Oh.
And that just didn't resonate with my little petty spirit.
Yeah, so basically, like you forgive them and stay in relationship with them.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Or you are doing something sinful because you haven't forgiven and you're bitter and you're resentful and you're angry, and so you haven't processed through all those feelings and all that kind of thing. So I was just thinking, I need some help. I need some support. I don't know. What's your perspective on it?
Well, my perspective was just that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I've been learning through this healing journey is that when you forgive, you leave the person where that you're able to wish them well,
Yeah.
send them on their way,
Yeah.
and you really can move on.
Sure.
But you harboring unforgiveness and offense brings them with you.
Interesting.
It brings them with you.
Interesting.
John Bevere, I'm reading a book called The Bait of Satan. And when you're in pursuit of healing, when the Holy Spirit brings something up to you that you need to address and deal with, you need to go and do that work. And so that came up like you're not forgiving him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have people to forgive. It wasn't just
Yes,
him.
right.
You have people to forgive.
Yeah.
There are people that have done things that created this environment for you to even attract him. You have unforgiveness towards people.
Interesting.
And I was like, wow.
Interesting.
Because you, just like you said, you think that because you continue a relationship with them that you have forgiven them.
Right.
You have not.
Absolutely
You have
not.
not forgiven them.
Yes.
Because you will bring it up as soon as they think that they're going to say something to you.
Right.
I know you're not talking.
Yes.
I know
Just
you're
what
not
you've
talking.
done.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
And you run
absolutely.
down the record of wrongdoings.
Absolutely.
Yes, so you haven't gotten free.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the way that he describes it was just amazing.
Yeah.
So what he says is that like a fisherman puts a worm on a hook. Trip off of this. This is
here for it.
amazing.
Yes.
And you cast your rod, you cast into the water to go fishing. The fish think that the worm is alive because of the water, because of the movement of the water. So the fish, not knowing that there's a hook in this worm, attaches itself to the worm, thinking that the worm is swimming and doesn't realize it's caught and it is dying a slow death. So it's the bait of Satan. Satan puts this worm on this hook to get you hooked, and you bite it, and it could cover so many things. It could cover the love bombing. It can cover so many ways that the enemy gets you to grasp onto something toxic that will destroy you.
Interesting. So just to be clear, you're saying that unforgiveness is that worm on the hook, and we are the fish that are grasping towards the worm.
Absolutely.
And then dying the slow death because we
Have
latched
atta-
onto it.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Because
a
that,
word.
and so that worm is the bait
Wow.
of Satan. It is the way that Satan gets us hooked. So there's a lot of baits.
Yes.
But unforgiveness and offense is one of them. And so although you have separated from this toxic person,
yeah. Right.
left the job, whatever the toxicity, whatever the bait is, you left it, you're gone. You're on the other side of town. You're all the way in a new position, new relationship, new city, new state, but you're still, that person is still with you. You're still hooked to the bait because you have not let it go. And when I read that, I said, wow, I am getting free because nobody is worth that. And not only that, we were forgiven.
Yeah.
We've been forgiven for so much. We've been forgiven for so much. Who are we to not do that to our neighbor?
Right. Wow.
You know, and even my ex, like, I'm not mad at him anymore.
Yes. Right.
Anymore.
Yeah.
When I realized that this is still a soul.
Yes.
This is still a lost soul. This is still someone who was broken. You know, who am I?
Yeah.
You know, although everybody has to be held accountable for the stuff that they do, and they will be, but it's not for me to do.
How did you get free?
Wanting, like I said, the Holy Spirit brought that up.
Yeah.
And I targeted it.
Yeah.
And that's what's been happening this whole journey.
So through prayer, you would say.
Through prayer, through reading.
Yeah.
Through when you want something,
Yeah.
you pay attention to it, and God will send it to you. He will send you. So for me to even hear about or look online and see John Bevere talking about unforgiveness and offense is the bait of Satan. That title alone. Who wants him? Nobody wants Satan with them.
Right. Of course.
You know, nobody wants to be attached to him. We don't want to have anything in common with him. We don't even want to play around with his bait.
Yeah.
We don't even want to toy with it. So it was very important for me to get free. If I want to be free and free indeed and never attract another person like this, I needed to get this out of me completely, where I'm no longer enamored by the moving worm.
Right. Right.
The worm floating around, and, you know, why am I so hungry or so thirsty? Is it because I have all of this other stuff inside of me that's creating, you know, this same situation, different, same script, different cast. So it doesn't matter if it's your mom, your dad, your cousin, you know, your ex-boss, your babysitter.
Yeah.
You know, now it's your ex-husband.
Interesting.
You know, so you free them because God said vengeance is his. He will repay.
Right. Yeah.
You're not more effective than him. He is very specific about the things that he knows and about each one of us and what he will do to hopefully win us to him. So he has his thing to answer to God about. I don't want to be the person to do it because I'm not even going to do it right.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, like I said, I'm a little petty, so I could do some stuff.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because...
But it's wrong. I know it's wrong.
It's funny because I'm petty also. I mean, you know, I feel that sometimes, but I never wanted anybody to feel like they mattered that much to me.
Yeah, I get that.
I wouldn't do anything to, you know, against him.
Right.
But I still was pissed off.
Yes.
I was like, how could you?
Yeah.
I was minding my business.
Yeah.
Raised my son, got my son off to school on a scholarship, single mom, been on my own for a very long time, paying my bills, doing me.
Yeah.
You come over here bothering me.
Yeah, right.
And moved in with me.
Yes. Yeah.
Got custody of your kids. I raised your kids. You could not promote before me. Then you started to promote, repaired your image. I have a whole laundry list of stuff that I could be completely pissed about and was pissed about.
Right.
And was pissed about.
Yes.
Make that very, very clear.
Yes.
I could have went around and told all kind of business that I found that I knew.
Yeah.
Didn't do that. I just, you know, I'm not vindictive.
Yes.
So that's the good part. I'm not vindictive, but I still had offense in my heart.
Right.
I still was pissed off.
Yeah.
And God has completely freed me from that because I don't want to be hooked to him anymore.
I love that.
So if I'm going to continue to be hooked to him, I might as well have stayed.
Sure. You know what I'm thinking then that you're saying, because what's coming up for me as far as forgiveness is concerned, what I hear you saying that's important is it's okay to be mad. actually, because I think that sometimes we think that it's a sin, or we think it's unkind, or we think it's unholy, or we think it's just not okay for us to be angry.
Right.
And I don't hear anybody saying that we can't or we shouldn't be angry when we're trying to forgive.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the Bible says be angry but sin not.
Sure. Right. That
That's
makes
an
sense.
emotion. You have a
Yes.
soul.
Yes.
Your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. You're going to feel emotions.
And God didn't create emotions for us not to feel them, right?
Right.
So it has to be okay that we get upset every once in a while, or feel the level of anger that we feel because of the offense or the wrongdoing. Yeah. I actually do, I do work with a lot of people. When we're talking about offense, I work with a lot of people who have had trauma, and that is a very deep-seated offense where they have either had a long-standing, long-term traumatic experience where their lives were at risk, their health and their well-being were at risk, and so they have very legitimate reasons not only to be angry but to hold on to it for a really long time.
Yeah.
And what I notice from people who have had traumatic experiences is there's this thing in therapy called mastery. And what mastery says is that in order for us to be able to heal from our trauma, we repeat the patterns that caused the trauma in the first place as a way for us to perceive that we're fixing the problem, but we're only perpetuating the trauma.
Wow.
Right. And so when you're talking about this idea of latching on to this worm, it reminds me of this principle of mastery that happens with trauma. So there's something that's super important and vital about figuring out what it looks like, not to not think about or remember what happened, but to figure out what it looks like to live beyond it, right, and to move forward. And it's not an easy process, depending on what the offense was and the level of it was.
Yeah.
It can be a lifelong process.
Yes.
Actually.
And some of that reminds me, and correct me if I'm wrong, how it takes the same. I'm trying to. So what it took to, like, for example, cancer.
Yeah.
And they say that when, they want to find out where the cancer is in your body, they inject what caused the cancer, which would be like some sugar pellets or something, right?
Sure.
And then on the scan, they can see it looks like Pac-Man, and they can identify where it is because that's what feeds the cancer.
Sure.
Is that what you're saying about?
Yeah, it's very similar in the sense that people will get into situations that that are very reflective of the trauma.
Of what they feel. Is it about their own worth or value, or what
I think
what
that
they're comfortable with?
Like an example of that, there was a person who had a traumatic experience when they were a young person. Like their parents would lock them in the closet. They would emotionally abuse them, lock them in the closet, physically abuse them. What these people would do was they would, once they were separated out of that home, lock themselves in the closet as a way for them to figure out how to overcome the emotion.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
But the problem is that they don't fix the emotion.
Right.
They just make the trauma come back up again.
Exactly.
Right. And so we are doing that in a lot of ways. We're doing that in relationships, getting into new relationships that look like the old stuff. And they're trying to figure out what it looks like for them to not feel the pain of the trauma anymore when they're only perpetuating the trauma. Right. So it looks more like you think that you're fixing it by going into the old stuff again, but you're not doing that at all. So when we're talking about forgiveness and healing the offense, what would you say from a religious perspective that looks like? You said prayer has been something that's helped you. What do you think are other things?
Well, it does take time.
Yeah.
It does take time.
Right.
And it's going to take time, but it has to be a conscious thing.
Yeah.
You have to want it for yourself.
Sure.
You have to really want to be free.
Right.
A lot of people don't want to feel pain. And to heal, it's painful.
Yes. You
To
have
heal,
to confront
you
it.
have to confront it. You
Yeah.
have to address it, and you have to sit in it. You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's not something that people would rather. They don't understand the damage
Yeah.
that's being done
Yeah.
when they hold on to it. But when you stay in it and you're fighting through it, you actually are healing and it will one day pass on. But you carrying it around is creating so much damage, although you feel like it's easier to not address it and just move on.
Right.
Like people's cutoff game is amazing.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, I would cut you off left and right, but are you really cutting them off though?
Wow.
Are you just cutting that relationship, hanging up the phone call, breaking up with them and going to bring him with the new him,
Right.
bringing her with the new her.
Right.
And now you have this comparison going on between who you were with prior that you didn't let go, that's still in your soul,
Yes.
and this new person. And now this new person wonders why they're competing with this image or this something that you have that they can't get to.
Right.
And that's how they compile them over into people on people on people on people
Right.
because they never let go.
Yeah.
They never let go of anybody. Everybody's still in there.
You're saying something that makes a lot of sense, because I feel like as a therapist, I see a lot of people that are like, I don't care about that anymore, right? And they have suppressed or dissociated,
Yes.
or numb themselves. They don't have to feel, and it's not over. It's not over. And so I feel like that is a pattern for a lot of people, is this idea of, if I don't feel about it anymore, I must have forgotten or forgiven it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true.
It's not true at all.
Yeah.
It's not true at all.
Right.
You have to take time and heal.
Yeah.
You have to get that out of you. You have to, but this generation, this society does not want to, they do not want to address truth.
Sure.
They don't want to address
interesting.
truth.
Interesting.
You know, and it really, it builds character. So a lot of times people will see people and think like, wow, I want the ministry they have, or I want the power they have. I want the impact they have. I want the influence they have. I want to be able to speak like her or speak like him and do this. But you don't want to do the work.
Right.
You don't want to do the work that it takes
Right.
to get that level of anointing.
Yeah.
There's a pressing that happens. You have to press those grapes to get wine. You have to press, you have that gold got to go through the fire.
Yes.
But people don't want that. And
Right.
that is a part of the forgiveness is hard to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Take it from me, it is hard to do.
Absolutely.
There were things that were done to me that, and I mean before him, that that a child should never experience, and I've had to forgive that, and I'm still working on it.
Of course.
I'm still working on it because I can't be around certain people
Yeah.
and be myself, be my best self. When I am, that's when I know that I've really let it go. You know,
love
and
that.
I'm in process of, forgiving a lot of people because they're attached to this. There's a string. That's the bait,
Yeah.
the hook.
Yeah.
The enemy will get as many on that hook as possible, as many
Wow.
baits, as many fish,
love that
whatever he
analogy.
can do, because he wants you to be mad at the world. Because then you create a problem. You're not doing what God's purpose was for you.
Sure.
You can't even wake up and be in joy and peace because you have all of these hooks in you.
Right. Wow.
That means you're tossed to and fro based on what she's doing, what he's doing, what happened over here, this person at the counter, woo, 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 at the cleaners, blah, 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 blah.
Right. Right.
You got all this offense going on. You pissed
Right.
off at the world.
Right.
Who cares that you're beautiful like that?
Sure.
You're
right.
ugly.
Yeah.
You're
'cause
ugly. You're angry.
Yeah. It
God,
toxifies.
you're ineffective.
Yeah.
God can't even do anything with you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how many degrees you have.
Sure. Sure.
It doesn't matter if you're nasty to people.
Yeah.
If people can't trust you,
Yeah.
if you're telling everybody's business,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things, if you're over drinking,
Mm-hmm.
if you're overeating, if you're under eating, whatever it is, these are hooks. These are things that you need to address and find out where the root came from and uproot it and sit to
Love
yourself.
that. You are preaching
Yeah,
today.
and sit to yourself.
Yeah.
And let God do it. He will do it and he will reward you.
Yeah.
He will reward you. But the most rewarding thing even if God didn't do anything new, the most rewarding thing is that you would get back to your authentic self,
Yeah.
who He created you to be.
Yeah.
And that is nothing missing, nothing broken.
Yeah. What I'm thinking about as you're saying all of this is you are introducing to me a new perspective of what those hooks mean. Because I never thought of it from that perspective before. This idea that what it looks like is self-inflicted injury, and then how you are injuring other people as a result of that, right? I was only thinking how we must want to injure the person who caused the pain. And that's not the only part of it. So I love this the way that you're describing this right now. It's really like sitting in my spirit.
I love that you said that, because the person who you're mad at is not feeling anything.
Absolutely not.
They're not feeling anything.
Right.
You come break his windows out,
Yeah.
key his car,
Right.
slice his tires.
Yeah.
You confirm what he's telling people about you anyway,
Sure.
that you're crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then what?
Right.
Then what? Now
Right.
everybody's like, did you do the boop? And you're like, yeah, I did the. So now everything, this whole smear campaign,
Yes.
now you just confirmed it.
Interesting.
And then how do you feel?
Yeah. You
That
don't
you're
feel better.
yeah, you don't feel better. You never you can't feel better.
Yeah, that's a really great
So
point.
the only way that you can feel better is to release,
Yeah.
completely release them.
Yeah.
And then you go on to really, really heal.
Yeah.
You know, because people are broken.
Yeah.
People are hurt. Like everybody is hurt. Hurt people hurt people.
Sure.
And if destruction has gone through somebody and they're able to destroy you or to abuse you, they're already gone. So there's nothing more that you can do to something that's already gone. It's already dead.
Yeah, of
On the
course.
inside, it's already dead. What are
Yeah.
you going to do?
Right.
Something topical?
Right. Right.
Like, if you hit someone who is a trained fighter, he's going to take it like a champ, because that's what he does.
Of course.
But if he hits you,
Yeah.
you're going to be knocked out,
Right.
because that's not what you do.
That's a good point.
That's
Wow,
not what you do. So you stay in your lane and you stay connected to your source and get your real peace. And the best revenge is success. Leaving
that.
them alone.
I love that.
Leaving them alone and going on and having a beautiful life.
Yeah.
That is the best revenge.
You know, and I think too, when we're talking about forgiveness and offense as a married person, there's a lot of things that happen. A lot. A lot.
I'm going to say.
A lot. On a daily basis. And so we're talking about trauma, big traumas, things that have like changed our lives and our experiences. And then we are talking about now daily offenses, where we are having to figure out, because daily offenses can turn into big trauma. Right?
Absolutely.
So we're even as a married person myself, I'm having to be constantly processing what it looks like for me to let go and not be petty to my partner, and even though sometimes I want to be,
Of course.
and figure out how to continue to be in my relationship wholeheartedly, let go of whatever happened yesterday, and move forward. You know, I think that my work around that has been that I try to tell myself, one of my practices is, that was yesterday. This is a new day. Let's talk about what's happening right now, right? Because if I bring yesterday into my today's experience, I'm not going to be able to move forward, and I'm not going to be able to have a new kind of experience with him. So I am very diligent about affirming, like, all right, let's move forward. Literally, let's move forward. You know?
But you guys have talked about what offended you.
Yeah, so I think that as far as from a secular perspective, forgiveness is concerned, for people who are in those relationships that they still maintain with people, because we're all humans and we're gonna offend. From a secular perspective, what I teach people about forgiveness is that a few things have to happen. The person has to understand what they did wrong. The person offended has to understand why the other person did what they did. The offender has to understand how the person feels.
Right.
There has to be some kind of remorse, and there has to feel like it's not going to happen again, right? So whenever I'm trying to have resolution with my husband, we're talking about what it looks like to move forward, letting him understand what happened to me and why he did what he did, me understanding that, and then figuring out how do we make sure this doesn't happen again. You know, it's not a perfect science though, because it's going to happen again. Things happen. You know?
Well, like the Bible says, the small foxes spoil the vine. So the small things unaddressed, and this is another sign that you're in something toxic. If you don't feel comfortable with expressing your emotions because of the reaction that you're going to get, you're probably not dealing with someone who even cares about your emotions.
Wow.
Because even if your feelings are off to them,
right,
if they love you, and they want to stay cohesive in a cohesive union with you, they will at least listen to what you have to say.
Wow.
Not stonewall, silent treatment, be mad at you over being mad at them.
It's so funny that you say that, because there's this couple, the Gottmans. They actually are psychologists, and they study divorce. And they actually say that divorce happens when people stonewall and when people are defensive. And you can't have forgiveness when somebody is stonewalling you or defensive. But then also there's this idea about trust, and in order for us to be able to trust people, we need to know that there's accountability. And so you're saying something that's super important, which is, in order for us to be able to forgive and move forward, we have to feel like the person is taking ownership of what they've done wrong, and are able, like you said, to dialogue with us about it so that we can move forward. Otherwise, it probably ain't good.
Yeah, the resentment starts to build.
Yeah.
And then by the time the volcano erupts, it's too late. It's too much damage. And it's very, very important. It's funny because you don't even recognize, I would say, I don't feel like I can say no to you.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he told me that I couldn't say no.
Right.
But he told me I couldn't say no.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't feel anything that reduces you, anything that silences you. You are now becoming a reflection of your partner.
Right.
Someone who doesn't have anything to say.
Yeah.
Because the more they say, the more they'll say. So the more they say, they don't want to say anything because they'll start to reveal who they really are. So no matter how long you're in a relationship with them, and because a lot of times when you come and you want to have an adult conversation, I used to get the remote turned in my face.
Wow.
So I would have to get in between the TV, hey, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
And it would be just like this.
Wow. Stonewalling.
Right in my face.
Wow.
Turning the TV there's nothing that you have to say that I care about.
Wow.
You don't have a voice here.
Sure. Wow.
You don't have a voice here. So things like that, where you don't matter your word. I have a client whose husband would, in the middle of her crying, would just leave. Get up, walk out, get in the car, and leave.
Oh, my goodness.
In the middle of her crying.
And she would just have to soothe herself.
She would have to fix herself.
Wow, that's devastating.
I spent a lot of time fixing myself.
Right. Wow.
Fixing myself. Get yourself together.
Sure.
Get yourself together.
Yeah.
And so the resentment in the house, when you're married or when you're in a relationship, those small foxes need to be addressed because they will ruin the entire vine. It will ruin it. And now you have the relationship of grandparents who were told they couldn't divorce, and all they do is bicker.
Right.
All they do is argue. They can't stand each other.
Right.
But they stay together.
Right.
Who wants to be in a house where there's no peace?
Exactly, because there hasn't been any forgiveness. And
No
those
forgiveness.
offenses have never been resolved.
Right.
That's interesting. I did this exercise, speaking of resolution, in my church when I was a teenager. And one of the things that the pastor recommended, and tell me what you think about this, I had a lot of anger towards my mom because, parents are parents and they're human and they do things. And I remember the pastor saying, write down whatever the offense was that your person did, and put it in the offering bucket. And I remember that was actually really effective for me. He told us to put all of them on paper and in the bucket. He prayed over it, and that actually, from that day, it really helped a lot.
Awesome.
So I think that there are different kinds of spiritual like processes that can happen. I even have recommended clients to put it in a bucket and burn it. Right? So that they can really let it go. Are there any other things, any tangible things like that you could recommend?
I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
I went to a retreat and they had a bonfire and we were supposed to write it and put it in the fire. And it helped to a certain degree.
Sure.
It helped to a certain degree, and it may help for some things, and not other things.
Yeah.
In a marriage, I'm not sure. There was someone there with me who was married, did the same thing, went home to the same behavior and the same stuff. And so there it is waiting for you.
Right, of course.
So, I'm not going to set a fire in my backyard and keep burning. Like, we need to deal with this.
Yes, of course.
We need to, we need to deal with this. And so it may work, but prayer works, and him praying over it, and us praying over it, because we have power to pray over things. We have power to break those strongholds off of our lives. We want to live free. And so, prayer, primarily getting a word on it and continuing to hear, because faith comes by hearing the word of God. So hearing the word preached on it will help also, because you have to learn, like you said, the science behind it. And once you learn the science behind it, you'll see a different perspective. You just need a different perspective because you're in your emotions, you're in your feelings, as you should be.
Absolutely.
You were hurt. One thing that I did also is I said, you know what? Stop trying. You're going to continue to be disappointed your whole life looking for you in people.
Interesting.
Looking for you in them.
Right.
They're not you.
Adjust your expectations.
I wouldn't have done them like that. We know.
Yes.
That's why you're hurt.
Yes.
That's why you're hurt.
Wow.
But stop looking for you in people and look for them in them.
I love that.
Look for who they are in them.
I love that.
Because then the narcissism won't work either, because the reflection of you that you like chicken, girl, I love chicken. You ever been to the chicken place? Now that won't work.
Yeah, of course.
Now that won't work.
Yeah.
You'll look for them in them. But when you look for you in them is the problem, because when they reflect that image back on you, you hook, you bite. Oh my God.
Good.
You start hard eyes and
No,
it needs to take more than that.
And I think too that what I hear you saying, and you said it at the very beginning, is forgiveness doesn't mean that we stay in the bad situation, right? Like I'm talking about my own marriage, and if the behavior didn't change, there would have to be a point where I would have to get out of it, And so maybe we have to be thoughtful about when we accept that a behavior is not going to change. And it doesn't mean that we don't forgive. It just means it's time to go. So you're saying something important around making sure that behavior gets modified. If the person that loves and cares about you know that it's harmful to you, knows that it's a trigger to you, they should want to fix it. They should want to do their best at least. At a minimum, we should see them trying to work to make improvements. But if the offense keeps happening and they don't feel like they want to make any shifts because they just are who they are, because I hear that a lot, it's time to go probably.
It is.
And
I am who I am. This is just the way I am.
Right.
It's just the way I am.
Right.
You're not by yourself.
Exactly.
You're not by yourself. And then sometimes you need to look like, oh, this is the way you are.
Right.
And you need to hear that.
Right.
And feel that.
Right.
I made a mistake.
Yeah.
This is who this person is.
Yeah.
They're not going to change. There's nothing that I can say. There's nothing that I can do. I could shed blood and they're still going to be just like this.
Exactly.
You're begging and pleading and crying out and making phone calls and making all of these allowances for this immature behavior.
Right.
But guess what? If the person really wanted to be with you, they would go outside of themselves like you are.
Right.
You're going outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You're doing all of this stuff trying trying to perform for this person.
Right, of course.
No, walk away,
Yeah.
forgive them, and let them be with them. And that was another thing I said.
That is a bar. You sure you wasn't a rapper in a whole other life?
You
Look
crazy
at you.
girl.
Yes.
But the offense is funny because when people leave you
Yeah,
or you leave them,
yeah,
they go wherever they go.
yeah.
And you go wherever you go.
Right.
So then we'll see who the problem was.
Right, exactly.
We'll see who the problem was.
That's good.
You know? Because you're
Yeah.
going to go where you go. And that's what I feel. I was able to release because I have great relationships with people.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
things that he was telling me about me,
Yeah.
I had never heard before.
sure.
Never.
Mm.
I had never heard I was selfish. I'm so not selfish. I am like, I'm a major giver.
Yes.
I love to give. It
Yes.
feels, I would give you the shirt off of my back
Yeah,
if it even matches your outfit.
yeah,
It's not even that you even need, girl, look, but let me put that on, I don't care.
right.
I just want people to be their best self. But I had heard things about me that I had never heard before.
Wow.
I was like, wow, I've never heard anybody say these things about me. How am I the person at the beginning that you were talking about? And I'm this person too.
Right.
And I started to say, stop telling me you love me. I don't ever want to hear it again. You could not possibly love that person.
Right, of
Who
course.
she is, she's not lovable.
Right.
She's not lovable. She's actually horrible.
Right. Right.
If that's who I am, stop telling me you love me. Stop coming back to the love bomb.
Yes.
Stop it.
Yes. Yes.
Stop it. So those small things in the relationship, and you, like you said, when you realize that this person is going to continue to offend you,
Yes.
continue to abuse you, continue to hurt you, continue to betray you,
Yeah.
walk.
Walk away.
Walk.
You're also making a case against not breaking out the windows because, like you said, you have to face yourself at the end of the day, right? You have to be able to feel good about whatever choices you make at the end of
Yes.
it all. And when we're engaging in petty behavior, we have to be okay with whatever that looks like because we only have ourselves to blame at the end of it all.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
there's a lot about, even I look at my situation, there were things about me that were unaddressed, that were missing the mark. I feel like he was primarily responsible for the demise of the relationship, but I have responsibility in engaging in the relationship. So although my hands were clean, I never cheated. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the reasons why I was even in the relationship was because I didn't address some things that should have been addressed. And then he and I would have never even I would have never entertained him. So who he could not be for me, he wasn't ever in the first place.
Sure. Yeah.
But if I have an inability to identify that he's not who he says he is,
Yeah.
is that his fault?
What you're saying makes sense because when I see people who have big trauma, the biggest process that they have to work on is forgiving themselves, actually, because we do a lot of blaming ourselves for having gotten into the situation, you know? And so we almost have to learn what it looks like and what it means for us to trust us again, ultimately.
Yeah, but
And
that's
a process, too.
so sorry to interrupt you, but that happens still with people not dealing with it.
Yeah. Yeah, of
They
course.
still they blame themselves.
Right.
But it's not always from the angle of their accountability.
Right.
Sometimes they blame themselves because they feel like how did I fall for? I'm too good. How did I fall for this?
Interesting.
It's not from a place of humility.
Sure.
It's a place from arrogance.
Interesting.
A lot of times I find
Interesting.
that a lot of people feel like they were too good to be caught up in this. Or how weren't they able to keep up the energy of the relationship? So they don't forgive themselves because they feel like they dropped the ball along the way.
Yeah.
And it created this this demise of this relationship
Yeah.
when it was never that in the beginning.
Yeah. And I see a lot of working to forgive in situations of like rape, right? Like, how did I get myself into the situation?
Yes.
And I think that, you know, when it's from an arrogant place, we have some work to do in terms of humbling ourselves and figuring out what is the true accountability,
Right.
But when it's from a self-deprecating place, then we have some work in terms of being comfortable to build our self-esteem and love ourselves again, you know? So I think as far as that is all concerned, prayer is something that's important. I think therapy is something that's important
Yes,
too.
big time.
I think being able to notice when we engage in trustworthy behaviors with ourselves, when we eat the right things and spend time with the right people and make good choices, I think that goes a long way in terms of us forgiving ourselves. Are there any other things that you think are helpful for aiding in forgiveness of ourselves or of others in general?
Yeah, I think that it's really custom for each person. We spoke about this before. I had an ear to hear what the Spirit was saying. I ran to God.
Yeah.
There was a disconnect from me being under the ministry that feeds me from me getting in that relationship. He had an issue with the ministry that I was a part of, and I disconnected from the ministry, and I ran back to what I knew fed me.
Yeah.
And I ran back to God.
Yeah.
And so then along the way, he gave me customized things to do for my healing.
I love that.
And that's what he'll do for everybody.
I love that.
He's no respecter of persons. What he does for one, he'll do for everybody. So he will do that for them. They run back to him. He has an aerial view. He knows exactly what you need to do, what happened to you. He knows exactly who to put you in contact with.
Yeah.
We've been in a relationship for years.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that we would be here?
That's true.
We didn't know, but
Right.
God knew.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So that's exactly, he told me, like I said before, I used to self-care myself crazy,
Yeah.
massage this, and I
love it.
haven't had to do it. I haven't had to do it. Do I want to do it? Absolutely. But have I had to do it?
Yeah.
There was something that I felt I had to do.
Yeah. Just
You
to
know?
survive it.
Just to
Yeah.
survive it.
Yeah.
So there are people that are going through it, and God will itemize it, customize it, outline it. He'll map it out and put you in the company of the people to provide the services for you.
I love that.
He will do it. He
Yeah.
will lead you.
Yeah.
You just have to get quiet and let him do it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The secular term for that is a corrective experience. So when I have clients who have had trauma, whether they don't trust themselves or they don't trust the other people, or they don't trust the world, whatever, what I notice tends to be very helpful is the corrective experience, which is them doing the opposite of what they did in the trauma, right? Speaking up, saying no,
Yes.
basically doing all the things that they wish
love
that
it.
they had done before. Not only does it help to build their trust in themselves, but it helps to build their trust in society, the world, whoever injured
That they
them
can
on some level.
continue on.
Exactly.
Those
Exactly.
same tools happen to get out of something toxic.
Yes. Yes.
When you use those same tools in the relationship, whatever the toxic relationship is, it will get you out.
I love that.
It will get you out.
I love
If
that.
you want to know whether you should be in or out, stand
those
up for
things.
yourself.
Yes.
Speak up for yourself.
Right.
That voice that they wanted silenced,
Yeah.
use it.
Absolutely.
Say no.
Yeah, I love that.
Reinstate your boundaries and stick to them
Right.
and see. Oh, I love that you said that, because
love
that was
that.
super important for me in my last few weeks.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, let me start to reaffirm who Arinda is.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
who he thought he was taken away. She's still there. She hasn't gone anywhere.
Reminding that even when you can't trust someone else, you can still trust you to have your back.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, support that self-support.
Exactly.
Encourage yourself.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Ooh, I
I
love
love
that you said that.
that.
That was really key.
Yeah.
Because people need to understand that you have a voice.
Exactly.
And the things that you are told, yes, and keeping secrets and keeping people's secrets.
Yes. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And we were taught that. We
Yeah.
were taught that growing up.
Yeah.
What happens in this house stays in this house.
Although there's some secrets y'all shouldn't keep. Okay.
Right.
Some secrets just shouldn't be kept. Yes.
Yes.
But I think that what you're saying is accurate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Being able to be trustworthy and then ultimately being able to trust yourself with other people. Right?
Yes.
I think that aids in this forgiveness like we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. And it helps to manage offenses so that when they keep happening, we know that we can do the things that we need to get out of the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
or when they've happened before, we know what to do in order to mend the relationship, you know?
And you have to make sure that your desire for love
Yeah.
is not attached to trauma.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
So for me, if I'm ever to do a relationship again, a marriage again, I need to be 1,000% healthy
I love
for my own sake.
Yeah.
Because if there's any residue of anything toxic, I'm not going to get God's will for me. If He wants exceedingly and abundantly above all we can ask or think, He don't want 99.
Yeah. Right.
He wants you to go 100 because He wants more than that. So our goal should be, I'm not saying He wants it, our goal should be 100. Our goal should be going, so God can do exceedingly abundantly. I don't want any remnant
Yeah.
of that. So then it's my duty
Yeah.
and my responsibility to take hold of my level of accountability in that situation that created or attracted and engaged the toxicity,
Yes.
to go all the way back
Yes.
to where the pain started.
Yes.
Where was my first infraction? Where did it first take place?
Yes.
Was I 7 months?
Yeah.
Was I 7 years? How far back? Go back. Be confident enough to know that once you come back and recover your pieces, you will be a whole person at the end of it. And you won't want any of those people that have gone on,
Yes.
because they don't have the consciousness that you do.
Right. Right.
They don't have the heart that you do. So they're able to hurt, move on, hurt, move on, hurt, move on,
Yeah.
because they're walking wounded.
Yes. Yes.
And so, like we said, the pain or the cancer, the toxicity needs its own thing to survive. So they're constantly looking for toxic stuff so that they can keep going, because they don't have the courage to do what I'm telling other people to do.
I love that.
Go back to the root of your pain and get yourself free.
Yes.
It would take them years. They have bodies to recover. They have a lot of people that they need to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
They don't have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
But have the courage to do it. I was like, Lord, I want all that you have purposed, all that you have preordained for me. I want to recover all. Satan don't get to have nothing.
Yes.
He don't get to have no parts of anything that you have associated with me. Every sacrifice, every thought that God had, every plan for my life, I want it in this lifetime here
I love that.
on earth. I don't want, nobody has more power than that desire.
Yes. Yes.
So if it means I have to release him and let him go,
Yeah.
I forgive you.
Yes. Yes.
I forgive you.
Yes.
I forgive you.
Yes. I
Yes,
love
you,
that.
because I know you're looking. But I forgive you.
And that's a whole mic drop, y'all.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth.
I love it.
I forgive.
That's
who?
a whole mic
Yeah,
drop.
it's done away with. It didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't work.
Exactly. Exactly.
It worked for the glory of God.
Yeah.
But what the enemy meant didn't work.
Right. I love that.
What the enemy meant for evil, God turned it around for good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to him be the glory.
Yes. I
So
love
let God get glory out of your life. Nothing that they did really worked. You're still here.
Mm-hmm.
You're still here.
Forgive them.
Forgive-
Forgive you. And let's
Forgive
move
them,
forward.
forgive you, and go have an abundant and prosperous life.
I love it. I love
Like
it.
I am.
Me too. Give me some of that.
Amen. You have a great husband. I love Sarge, hi.
Hey, boo.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with me about forgiveness. I think that it's really planting a seed for me in terms of thinking about not only what do I want to make sure I'm doing differently to take care of myself, but also to take care of my relationships and move forward.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
and that bait.
Yeah, let it go.
Don't even bite it.
Exactly.
Don't even bite it.
I love that.
Especially if he knows, because he doesn't have any new tricks.
Yes.
He's going to keep sending the same thing. And see, God, how, let me just say this. Everything that the enemy means for you, God has he has a ram in the bush and an answer for it.
Yeah.
So although he means if the enemy keeps on sending the same thing, you keep falling victim to it, God wants you to learn the lesson from it. The reason why God is allowing it to keep coming, because they're like, why don't God just shut the devil down?
Yeah.
Did you learn a lesson?
Yeah.
Have you learned a lesson? There's
Right.
clearly an adversary.
Right.
How will you be able to identify who God is if it wasn't an adversary?
Yeah. Right.
Stop
That's good.
falling victim to it.
Yeah.
Learn from it so you can move on.
I love
There's
that.
so many lessons in life to learn. But don't hold on to unforgiveness and offense. Let these people go about their business.
Love it.
And you go on about yours. Okay, pumpkins?
Bye, guys. Until
Bye.
next time.